Okay, I'm live according to YouTube. Well, thanks for joining. I hope everything is doing okay. There's a slight delay between when it says I'm live and when I actually go live. So yeah, thanks for joining me. Now, I did have the opportunity to actually have a guest with me here, Nathan from Crossbeats Music Productions, but unfortunately he is tied up and unavailable. So today's show is just going to be me. Well, I guess I'll be able to run it for a little bit shorter in time because the topics that I'm going to cover and the topics that Nathan was going to cover obviously are he's not going to be able to cover because he's not with us today. Hopefully next time around he'll be available. So I have several topics that I'm actually going to cover today in this live audio chat show. Even though usually Nathan and I, myself, we sort of talk about the topics and we share some of the ideas that we have all about music production, recording, and producing it, and so on. So, but in this occasion, it's just going to be me. So I'm going to talk about some of the topics that I'm going to cover today. At the same time, this is a great opportunity for you guys to say hello and join in with the chat. And at the same time, I nearly had double crossing there. Voice going twice because maybe I'm not listening to myself. So I'm going to be able to take some questions on the topics as well as off topic, as long as they talk about audio and music and productions. So let's get all started. Hello to everyone. First, I'd like to say hello to Choco Milk. Nice to see you here. I think I've seen you here on my live stream before. And we have Anurag Sharma, welcome to you as well. And Jason Joss says, hey, how you doing? Thanks for joining in. This is the live stream show that I'll be doing a few Q&A as well as some of the topics that I want to cover. Now, I did try to start a little bit early so that I get all things organized and ready to go, because sometimes YouTube takes a while for things to happen. But looks like it is all good. We have, according to Google, we have about 4 people that have joined in. And without any further ado, let's get started with the topic now. And I'm sure if you haven't already subscribed to my channel and this is your first time, please do hit the subscribe as well as the bell so you get to know, because I'll be doing a little bit more of live shows on my channel than recorded on demand videos. So so let's see how we're going with the topics. Now I'm going to talk about some information, how we perceive information, especially when we are watching YouTube videos, and where we watch one channel, one information, and another channel, another information, how we should actually distinguish about those things. And I'm going to talk about which one is the best DAW to use. Whereas even if there is such a thing as the best DAW. But we're going to talk about that. I will also talk about mixing your tracks of your songs. So about some ideas and tips and how to mix your songs and balance your instruments on any number of given tracks that you've got. And I also going to talk about gear insurance. That is something has come up lately because, and I thought I'll talk about that topic because one of my close friends who has a home studio as well had got broken into. Luckily, nothing was stolen. He was able to actually recognize and be there on time before they could take anything out. But it is something we need to talk about as well, because we tend to have quite a bit of gear, especially over the years that we collect. How do we protect them? Whether we need insurance or not. So this is especially, I'm going to talk about gear insurance in Australia. So we'll see how we go on that. So that's all the topics that I want to cover. Of course, I will always look at the comments, and if you have any questions, I will answer them as well. Let me have a sip of my... I'm already getting a sore throat. Yeah, Chocolate says, in Australia, good place to make a fortune there. I'm not sure about that. Me being in Australia, not sure you can actually make a fortune here. Because everything is expensive. Because everything is imported, you see. And I've spoken about this many times before in my videos, especially my live chat videos, that so many of the gear that I have here, or we can see in the music stores, they're at least earlier 6 months late when they are released overseas, whether in Europe or in US. So we get them here 6 months later, and they're twice as expensive. So not sure how you're going to make a fortune here, unless I don't know, unless you've got something else. Yeah, music here, especially in New South Wales, where the state that I'm in, there's a lot of issues with especially live music now. Everything is banned, everything being so much control. So many festivals have been cancelled due to the fact that the government and regulations require strict control. I mean, I can understand the reason why, because there has been a lot of issues with drugs and alcohol related injuries and deaths in those big festival events. But which festival then doesn't have those issues? But so trying to control that, they're actually pretty much killing at the music industry here as well. So there are a lot of musicians, very famous musicians, are making protests and making their things heard, saying that you can't do that. It just becomes unviable to put all those security things in. So many festivals have just been cancelled. Even local ones that normally take about maybe 700, 800, 1,000 guests coming in for a live show. They're just being cancelled because it's just not viable to run it. So yeah, the music industry, I'm sure with a lot of other countries as well, goes up and down. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know all the details or all the politics about it. I'll try to stay away from it. But that's the situation here in Australia. So if you have other ways of making fortune here, please let me know. Choco Milk. Yeah, Rang Sharma says, how are you? Talking to you after many years. Oh, yes, maybe. I do have lots of long-time subscribers here. And says, I'm using DAW Studio One. Yep, that's my preferred DAW as well. But we will talk about those topics a bit later on when I covered them. And Brian Willington says, hi, Vache, good to see you. You are always good to listen to. Well, thank you very much, Brian. Much appreciated. It says, Jess and Josh, we've had a lot of venues closing down here in SA. I assume SA would be South Australia. Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, yes, pretty much everywhere, all around Australia, those conditions for live music because of drugs and alcohol. Of course, they ruin everybody's life. Not only the people who actually use it, but also people who don't use it. They get punished by regulations and things like that. So anyway, sounds very bad for live music. Hope it doesn't get as bad here in Germany, says Brian. Yeah, I have very many musician friends who are having a hard time to find live gigs to play in, whether in pubs or clubs or live venues or music festivals and things. They're just all being cancelled. So yeah, it's not good. Hopefully a solution will come soon. There has to be some balance somewhere, because it just too expensive to put all the security that the government requires. Anyway, so let's talk about some of the topics. And the first topic I want to talk about is getting information, especially from YouTube. And I find this a little bit odd, and sort of I came across it just recently, where I have myself produced a video and helpful information of how to do certain things, and had different outcome from the comments and what they perceived. And at the same time, at other channels, small channels like myself, or not a big time producers myself. I'm not a big time producer. I have a small project home studio here that I record music, I produce music to the locals, as well as few overseas, mixing and mastering services. And the information that I provide on my channel, is from all of my experience. And similar smaller channels on YouTube as well, who produce this information and provide this information to everybody to listen to and watch and learn from. But what I can see, that people who are perceived to be more professional, or is their full-time job, giving the same information gets more attention than the people like myself, or smaller channels, or smaller project studios. So I want to mention that, is that it's really, as a viewer yourself, you need to understand and see where that information is coming from. And, I've also seen other channels who talk about audio, music production, and so on, who's got no clue what they're talking about, and they've got misinformation. And because they have more subscribers, and because they are perceived to have more, I don't know what, professionalism in their video productions, you see all these comments I read, and I go, oh my God, that is the wrong information. That's not going to work. That is false. That's an assumption, not actually been tested. It could be the fact that this YouTuber slash musician have found a way of getting some information, putting his 2 cents into it, and making a video, and all these people actually following it and getting it all wrong. So as a guide, as a personal thing, make sure that you get your information about music production, whether if it's recording, editing, producing, arranging, mixing and mastering. Make sure you get multiple channels of information of certain topic. So if you are, let's say, searching about how to achieve certain effects on your drums, using the compressor and EQ, don't just rely on one, professional YouTube channel. Look at the other smaller ones as well, and then work out who's saying what, and then make sure that you get the right information. So it's really important, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially with music and audio production, because everybody can produce videos, everybody can talk about music. Sure enough, they could be correct from their perspective, from their experience, but make sure that you don't take just one information. Make sure you share the ideas from multiple sources of information providers. So I thought I'll mention that to you to understand. Don't just listen to what I have to say. Listen to another YouTube channel. Some well-known and some not well-known. There could be, I personally follow YouTubers who are professional engineers, audio engineers who have, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I also follow other YouTubers who actually have, maybe 5,000 subscribers, and get different information, making sure that you have, you get the different views from different people. So that was my first topic I want to talk about with, of course, Nathan from Course Beats, but he's not here with us today, so I'm just going to blab on a little bit longer than I normally do. Hope you guys don't mind. Let's see. Choco Milk says, I've had a problem with drum pattern in Cakewalk. Whenever I put my own samples, the release of the sample was short. I haven't played around much with the Cakewalk Cakewalk patterns for drums. I know you can actually do that. So I'm not sure if I'm the right person who'll be able to answer that for you. Yeah, I'll have to find out. I'll have to use Cakewalk in the pattern mode and be able to work it out. I might be able to make a video. I will make a note and chase up Cakewalk. I will be doing a few more Cakewalk videos. So I definitely was going to look at pattern months and months ago, but I just haven't had the chance. So maybe now that Chocomilk is asking for it, I will see if I can chase out and find out why your samples are cutting short. It could be some setting that you have in there to the length of the note. Whether when you are entering the MIDI notes, maybe they're too short for the duration of the drum sample sound that you want. Maybe you need to extend the note length in the MIDI to be able to have. But I will find out and let you know on that. Okay, that was. I hope that helps you. So make sure you subscribe, and I will try to make a video shortly and try to help you out on that one. Okay, how's everybody going? I hope you are all doing fine. Just let me have a sip of my coffee. Brian says, yes, a good advice about multiple sources, but one of the problem I have, and many others I think, is info overload. What is your take on that? Oh yes, you can certainly get info overload. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. There's so much information that important information gets missed out. It's just like you open up your email inbox and there's like 50 emails, and then 49 of them is junk, and then as you're going through them, you missed out on one important email. It's the same here, but just, I'll say, make sure that when you're subscribing to a channel, make sure you watch as many of their videos, even as for a short while, that interests you, to make sure that that channel is providing information that you're after in the long run. So it's not like a channel would have made a video about audio, even though they're all about video. So there's no point of subscribing and then keep being interrupted with topics that you're not interested in. So I usually, before I subscribe to any channel, I look at their video list and I'll go back about 12 months back and see what videos they have been producing and work it from there. And to make sure that when I subscribe, I'm not going to get overload of information, of useless information, or information that doesn't really interest me. And sometimes I do unsubscribe because the information that's being provided now, the format would have changed, the channel would have changed, and the ideas for that channel, where that channel is going, the creator would have changed, and now it's creating videos rather than audio production. So you got to check all of those, make sure you don't get overloaded. So I think that's what I would do. And keep your subscription, to minimum. If you're getting too many updates and most of them are irrelevant, you can certainly turn off notification. You can still subscribe to them, but turn off notification maybe. We'll see how that actually works. Ashish Apray says, hi Vache, Avid says says Pro Tools First is fixed, but I lost my 4 projects after updating to solved version. Will you try it? And my Cakewalk by BandLab does not synchronize loops. Any idea how to? Okay, there are 2 questions. I have not downloaded and tested the Pro Tools update that Avid says they fixed it. I just haven't had the chance to do the same, what I call, scientific procedure to make sure that it still it has been fixed. So go to the same procedures that I've done in the video that I demonstrated the fault is, making sure that it doesn't work. So if you say that you updated it and you're still lost, but I think that is something I definitely have to look at. But the sad thing about it is, and I mentioned this in my previous videos, that even though I spend quite a few hours working it out, testing every different step to make sure to find out that every time it does fail, when the same steps, when I go to the same steps and it fails every single time, when I follow that step and it doesn't do it any other way, a lot of those time that I spend and hours I spend, and when I made the video and I sent it to Avid, of course, Avid did not even acknowledge or say thank you, even in an email, privately, to say, by the way, thank you, Vache, for spending the time finding out and letting us know how this could be happening. It saves a lot of headache and probably lawsuit, especially if Pro Tools HD users, which pay thousands and thousands of dollars every year for them, that could have lost a big major project. So not even that. So they've taken all of the credit. They said, we found the error and then we fixed it. So, but as to help, I guess, to my subscribers, I will spend the time and trying to work out and fix, see if I can replicate the same error in the updated version when they say it's been fixed, and I will let you know. So make sure you follow up and maybe give me a couple of weeks for me to have the time to be able to set it all up and run through the test. And it does take quite a few hours to go all through the steps, making sure that every single step has been fixed. So Ashish, yep, I'll follow that up for you. And Martin King says, hi from London. Good morning to you as well. It'd be good morning there. And Ashish, and as to the second question for Ashish, I don't really use Cakewalk as much. I'm not sure what you mean by synchronized loops, anyhow, how to. Yeah, you got to explain a little bit more what you mean by loops. Unlike Fruity Loops or unlike Traction T7 and up or Traction DAWs, most DAWs don't have clip looping option. In Fruity Loops, you can have a clip and then you can set it into a loop mode and drag it. Same with Traction, you can click the L and then drag it and it will loop the same clip over and over again. I'm not sure if I've tested that in Cakewalk. It may be possible, but I don't know at the moment, so I'll check it out and let you know. I hope that's what you mean. Another question from Ashish says, is Droid Mics cheaper in Australia because it is made in Australia? No, not really. It cost about 330 Australian dollars. So you can convert that in your currency and see if that actually is any cheaper. But I don't think so, even though they are made here, but I think they're the same price. I mean, they should be. It shouldn't be any cheaper because it wouldn't be fair, you'd think. But, of course, anything coming from overseas is twice as expensive. So I doubt that they are any cheaper. And Clifford Salvador says, hello, Vache. Hello, Clifford. And Billy Blaze says, hi, Vache. I'm up late at 4:30 a.m. here. Wow. Well, yeah, thank you. That's an honor that you stayed up that late or that early to be on my live stream. Thank you, Billy. I hope you're doing well. I hope you. I haven't seen many of your music lately, so maybe you can tell us how you're going. Hopefully, you play some music. And before I go to the next topic that I was going to talk about, Jess and Joe says, have you used Reaper before? What are your thoughts on it? Reaper, yes, I do. I have purchased Reaper license back when it was Reaper version 3 and now Reaper version 5. And I have purchased Reaper version 5. I do use it. It's very lightweight DAW. A lot of the time I used to use it when I was doing live recordings for live performances. It was on my small laptop, and it would take hardly any RAM, and I'd be able to record all my tracks. And I'm not fluent in Reaper. I know how to use it. I know most of the functions, but I'm not as fluent as in Studio One. So I usually used to export the WAV files. Basically, you didn't even need to export because each track records as a WAV file in the media folder anyway. Drag those into my Studio One and work there. But if you want a professional DAW, that you want a bit more support, that it can do everything and anything, for $60 you can't go wrong. It's absolutely bargain for that price for Reaper. And Billy Blaze says, I have a video going up tomorrow, actually. Ah, very good. Just in time. Just in time. Okay, now the next topic, which actually follows on from the previous question. There is no one best DAW. That's what I want to tell you. You know, there's no such thing as one best DAW. Now, my personal choice is Studio One because I've used it for a very long time. Before Studio One, I had Reaper, and I used Reaper for about 12 months. That was my production. And then before that, I used to use Magic Samplitude. So it all depends what you're trying to do. I do have, you just have to, all of these DAWs that are out there, from Pro Tools first as one to try out. Then you've got Reaper that you can try. Studio One, you have a trial version, or you can use the Prime version with all of its limitations. You've got Cakewalk by BandLab. You've got Reason from Propeller Head. You've got Cubase that you can have the trial version. So all of these DAWs, try them out. If this is your first time entering into music production, try them all out and see which one suits your workflow. Or Ableton is another one. Now, Ableton, I have never even tried it because from what I have seen, it just doesn't fit my workflow. It looks like it's something for EDM production, live music production. Yes, of course, you can record audio from microphones and everything else, but the workflow of it didn't suit my workflow, the things that I do. So if you are doing, EDM music production, loops and so on, FL Studio is probably one of the best you can choose. Or Reason is another one that you can choose for that type of music production. But if you are recording live, I found Studio One being the easiest one for me. You can do the same thing with Reaper. You can do the same thing with Cubase. So they all have their own workflows. You just have to find the one that suits your need. Because don't ask the question, what's the best DAW? It's the only best way is for you to try it and see if it fits your workflow. Depends what sort of production you are having. You can do majority of the things that you can do in, let's say, in whatever you can do in FL Studio, you can do it in Studio One. Whatever you can do in Studio One, you can also do in FL Studio. But certain DAWs have certain influences in what they can do. So you need to find out what you want to do. Like, let's say if you're first time musician, or you just want to get into music, you're this person that have a beautiful voice, you can sing, but you don't know how to play any instruments, you don't know how to create music, then Magic Music Maker is probably the best tool to start you, because you don't need to play any instrument. You just drag and drop all the loops and see which one suits you. There are plenty sound pool libraries out there that you can drag them and arrange the way you like it, record your vocals, and there you go. I just did a recent video yesterday about Magic Music Maker version 2020. So watch that. And I have probably about a dozen videos using Magic Music Maker to create music, and even with the free version. So you can see, you can't say that is not a professional DAW. If you can produce your music and release it the way you like it, Magic Music Maker is a professional DAW for you, because there's no other way for you to start. But if you're already an instrumentalist, you can play the guitar, or you can play the drums or the keyboards, whatever, then you can probably choose another DAW. Maybe FL Studio can help you out, maybe Cubase or Pro Tools or Reaper or Studio One. So you kind of have to see and check out what suits you best and take it from there. And of course, most of those things you can move up to the next level and add more. And one last thing I'd like to add is, once you are happy with your DAW and you sort of go, oh, I can't do that. No, I'm trying to do this, but I cannot do it. It doesn't do it in FL Studio. No, I really have to throw it out, and then I need to get Reaper, or I need to get Studio One. No, work out how to do it, because you should be able to do it in every DAW. And as far as sound quality, there's no difference. Wave is wave. It's just how it's processed. Might be a bit different, but learn how to use it. The more you use it, the more you learn of it, the more fluent you become, and suddenly you realize that you can actually do everything that you plan to do. So keep that in mind. Don't switch DAWs just because you can't do something in that DAW and you can see you can do in that one. Maybe it's not as easy as doing in Cubase as in Studio One, but it's still possible to do it. Once you learn it, it becomes easy. Simple as that. Okay, take my word for it. Take my word for it, because I have, due to projects that I do, I have a lot of DAWs, but my main one is Studio One. Studio One Pro version 4, that's what I use. A lot of the other DAWs that I have, I know how to use them. I'm not fluent into them, and I don't intend to be fluent with them, because I concentrate using the DAW I prefer. I hope that explains that bit. There is no one DAW that says it's the best DAW. Okay, going back into some of the comment, guys. Thanks for joining in if you have just joined in. And thank you so much for being here. And Al Pearson says, hi, Vache, hope you're well. I'm very well, thank you. And Clifford Salvador says, $60 Reaper versus $100 Mixcraft versus Studio One Artist. Your thoughts? I'm interested in the inbuilt sound and effects quality details. Now, Reaper doesn't come with any sound mod VSTI instruments or sounds. It does have quite a few built-in plugins, which do quite a good job. That's what you're going to get for $60. Now, I don't have any experience with Mixcraft, so I can't comment on that. I have never used it. I know of it, but I never used it, so I don't know what comes with it. With Studio One Artist, it's probably about $100 and something, or $100 for Studio One Artist version. Again, you still have to pay a little bit extra to get the VST plugin option. Of course, the Artist does come with quite a few VST plugins already, like the Presence XD, Mai Tai, and Impact XD as your drum sampler, and all of the plugins that come with Studio One Artist. You don't really need any additional plugins. I also have to add that limitation sometimes makes you not only save money, but also a headache of having multiple plugins. just use the stock plugins, because it makes no difference what compressor you use, unless you want different tonality. But that's your next step. If you're just starting, the Artist is a perfect starting point. That's why when you purchase any audio hardware from PreSonus, you get Artist for free. Sometimes you can purchase, a $100 audio box, maybe the i1 or i2, and then you get Artist for free. And that should be sufficient for you to actually record anything that you want to record. It got sound samples, drum samples, all of that you can record. Unless you're really, really desperate to have a particular sound and you need a particular VST instrument added in there, then you can purchase the VST add-on feature for another, I think, I'm not sure how much it is. So you can look at it that way. Of course, yeah, that's the difference. Reaper is cheaper, but you need to either find a lot of free plugins, that there are many out there, or pay for plugins and VST instruments, where with Studio One, even you probably can do quite a lot with what you already have in or comes with. So I hope that explains that. My mind is actually running 24 bits per minute at the moment, because I'm trying to read at the same time instead of being, about 60. Martin King says Studio One Prime Artist doesn't support third-party plugins, so I use Traction Waveform as well. Yes, Traction Waveform version 8 is an OEM that you can get for free, or Traction T7 is the free version. Again, it's all about the workflow. Traction's workflow is quite different to any other DAW. So as long as you're happy with the workflow, you practice and learn all of its capabilities, then yeah, that's fine. Same with the Cakewalk. A lot of people say, why get Studio One Prime or Artist where I can get Cakewalk by BandLab for free and it can do everything? But have you seen the simplicity in Studio One Prime or the Artist and the complexity in Cakewalk by BandLab? If you're new to starting and you open up Cakewalk by BandLab, you just go, where do I start? I get so many questions. I've done a few videos and I get so many questions. How do I do this? Where do I click this? And you go, there's so many. I can't hear anything. Doesn't play anything. So especially when you're starting new, having limitations and simplicity makes it much easier for you to learn, and then you move up. And once you learn the basics of a DAW, moving to Cakewalk by BandLab or Waveform by Traction or Reaper, it's going to be easy, because you just cannot create, or you cannot write a book as a 3-year-old unless you start learning the ABC, and then from then on learn to put those ABC letters together and create words and then sentences, and then be able to create and write a book. So you just have to take a step at a time. And by just learning just the ABC rather than books, you create that foundation. You understand where letters in the book, or the words in the book and the sentences in the book, where they come from. Makes it really easy. I hope that's the right analogy about it. So I hope that explains it. So those limitations when you are starting is a really great point to have. And then you can move on to the next step once you are fluent with it. And then you can move on to any DAW and be able to use it even for the first time. I'll take a few more comments from you guys. Thanks for all those questions. Ashi says, thanks for every answer, Vache. I meant the tempo of loops does not synchronize to the tempo of project. For example, if a project is on 90 BPM and when I pull 80 BPM loop, it does not synchronize to 90. Aha, okay, now that explains it. That all depends whether the loop you are using has the embedded tempo in it. A lot of wave files, wave files and few other audio file formats can embed the tempo in it when they are saved. And if they don't have it, the system will, your DAW, regardless if it's Cubase or Studio One, won't know what the tempo of that imported wave file is. So unless it's already embedded, it won't know. So you won't be able to adjust it. If you get, let's say, special samples from, any samples which are professionally done and the tempo is embedded in them, then that should not be a problem. You just have to find out a way to embed the tempo into those wave files. It may mean re-encoding them, but once it's embedded, then the system will know the BPM of that wave file being imported and adjust accordingly. I hope that explains that bit. As I said, not every sound loop wave file or any other audio format includes the tempo in them. And Brian Willington says, hi Vache, have to leave now. Thanks for all your advice and insights. See you next time. Thank you, Brian. See you next time. Martin King says, Personas have had sales on Studio One in November, December, the last couple of years, if you can wait. Yes, they had a sale, I think, just before 4th of July as well. So they usually have sales. I usually wait and I make sure that I get it on sale as well. Every time I need to upgrade from version, I started with version 1.4, then version 2, version 3, and now version 4.5, and so on. So every time I wait until they have a sale, and by then they also would have fixed few bugs in the meantime. It would have passed 3-4 months from the time of release until it's Christmas time or mid-year July specials. So they just wait for that time, and you should be all good, unless you desperately need the update because you have a project. Okay. Billy Blaze says, I love Traction. Yes, I do. I think that's how you got to my channel, Billy, because I did quite a few videos on Traction. Okay, let's moving on to the next topic. And this is an important topic, and especially if you are into already mixing your song and mastering your song. Here's my sort of title of this next subject. Let me see if I can read it. Yep. Mix like you are mastering a song. Don't plan to fix it during mastering. Now, if you don't know the difference between mixing and mastering, I will briefly explain. Mixing is the stage when you are balancing all the different instruments in your song. The drums, the bass, the guitars, the rhythm guitars, the solo guitars, the keys, the synthesizers, vocals, background vocals, and so on. You are leveling them to make sure that they sound all level and balanced. That's the mixing stage. So and the mastering basically means once all that balancing is done, a stereo output of that mix is printed or created. And then the next step is a fresh setup. An import of that stereo wave file comes in to the project, and then you start referencing it to a commercially released song that matches the same style of music. And then you start adjusting the levels, whether EQing it, compressing it, limiting it, making it brighter, making it duller, removing muddiness, and so on to match a commercially released song. So you start listening to your song and then the reference song back and forth to make sure that you get as close as you can to that master. So that's what mastering does. But if you mix with a reference song in mind, then the mastering part becomes easier. So what I normally do when I'm mixing a song, I put my reference track, a commercially released song that matches the same style and genre of music, into one of the tracks. And then as I'm mixing, once I'm happy with the mix, I start doing an A-B, listening to my reference song and then switching into my mix. You go, oh, my bass is too loud. Switch back and forward. Yep, my bass is definitely too loud. So I bring it down and I listen again and try it. Ooh, my guitar's a little bit too low, or they're overpowering the vocals. So I work out a way to automate the guitar. So as the vocal is coming in, my guitar volumes goes down to give space to the vocals and so on. Or my vocals sounds a bit too bright. I might need to change it. Maybe it's too dull or too bright and so on. So that's what I do. I mix with a reference track as well. It's not really hard to do because just another track in your DAW that you switch A and B from. And once you're happy with the mix, then mastering it only becomes the next step of sort of the icing on the cake or the strawberry on top. So, because you've done all of the balancing right. So, that's how I do it. I mean, there are a lot of other ways people will claim it, but I think if you aim to make sure that you've got things right and you're not fixing it later on, always have the mentality of doing it right in the first instant rather than fixing it later. If during mixing you find some note on your keys, or the vocalist is a note out and thing, don't leave it for later. Just fix it that moment and then make sure that everything sounds good. Don't leave it to the end. A lot of the times when I have vocalists here coming in and singing in back there, we'll have a listen after the takes. We might do 5, 6 takes or 8 takes, however many it takes to get a good result of recording. And then we listen to it later on and you go, well, they're all good except they're not the best. Maybe let's do it again. So that's what you need to do. Always make sure that you have a good source, good recording. Then you have a good mixing and balancing. Don't leave it to the next stage. We'll fix it in the mix, or we'll fix it in the mastering session. So that's one of the other topics that I want to talk about. So, and at the same time, as you listen to a reference and you're listening to your own mix, your ears are being trained. You're listening to professionally mastered and released commercial song at the same time as yours. So your ears learn how your speakers sound in your room and how they sound listening to each one. And later on, a lot of the time now myself, I don't really have to listen to the reference track all the time because I know how they sound through my speakers in my room. So that's what you really need to do. I hope that's an advice you can take. And and practice and practice and practice and practice. And if you think after spending about a couple hours mixing a song, you're just not getting anywhere, you go, it's not working. Every time I adjust the bass, it sounds too dull, it sounds too bassy, and so on. Leave it for the next day. Just leave it as is. Come back the next day with a fresh ear, and you'll be amazed how different it will sound. Same goes the other way. You go, wow, this sounds really great. I'll listen to the reference song and I'll switch to my tracks and yep, they're sounding really great, very similar. You come in the next day and listen to your mix and you go, what the hell was I thinking? Why does it sound like that? What is it? Because your ears change. So you need to understand and learn that and always come back and check at least twice. Anyway, and give it some time. Maybe give it a day or two to get your ears used to things. Okay, so that's another topic. I hope you guys are happy with that. And I do have a final note here about insurance. And the only reason I wanted to add that into our conversation, which I was going to have with Nathan from Crossbeats Music Productions. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be here today. He's looks like he's quite busy, so I thought I'd go ahead and do the live show myself. It's not a chat. It's just a chat between you and me, guys. Is one of my friends just recently, who has a small studio in his place, had got broken into, and he was just lucky enough that he was just getting home, and he got the alarm call on his phone, and within a couple of minutes he was already home, and finding that the guy knocked his front door, and he had his head stuck in there, and it just got him. So we had to call the police and so on. So luckily he was there in time, and that he didn't lose anything. I understand a lot of us have a lot of gear in our even bedroom studios. It all depends, of course, how much you value them and how much insurance you would have. Some insurance will actually cover, home insurance will cover those as hi-fi systems and gears. But if you have a project studio like myself here, it's a standalone building that I've constructed myself, and there's lots of equipment here. There's thousands and thousands of dollars. No, only cheap stuff here. Nothing expensive here. So you really need insurance. I definitely have an insurance here to cover all this equipment, because even though it's locked, it's secure, it's double locked, and there is an alarm system here and the camera as well. So anybody walking in here, the camera will capture them, and I'll get it on my phone. I can log in from anywhere in the world. I can log into my studio and look at the camera and see if there's anything happening there. So insurance is also really important, because imagine if someone did break in here, by the time you get anything back, by the time even if you are able to catch the thief, you lost a lot of time, and time is money as well. So make sure, you guys, if you have anything more than a couple $1,000s of gear, to insure it. I know there's a lot of insurers in US. I'm not sure about in other countries, but in Australia, I found only 3 insurers that will actually do PA systems and studio recording equipment insurers. So I will link those insurance below, even though I have no association with them. So, but I thought I'll share that information with you, because it's really important. I mean, my friend, he was here on Friday, and he was telling me about it. And then you could see him. He was just so shocked, and even though he didn't lose anything, but it's really, really, you get a shock, all of a sudden. And I did say, do you have insurance? And he said, no. And then that's how I said, look, you can get this insurance, the one that I have, but the amount of insurance you've got, you probably don't need that big one. And we searched and found a few others, and he's going to chase them up and use one of those insurers to get insurance there. Even though he had an alarm system, but there's no insurance. So people breaking in, stealing everything. Yeah, you've got an alarm, but without insurance to replace whatever you had, it'd be hard. For me, it'd be devastating. I mean, even with insurance, I'm always sort of on the lookout, because even if insurance replaces everything that I have here, the time that I waste waiting for all these equipment to arrive. Some of the gears are no longer available. I purchased them, maybe 15, 20 years ago. They're no longer in production. You can't find them, even on eBay or anywhere else. So it's really important that we protect our gear. And that's pretty much the last thing I wanted to mention about your gear. It's really important. It's your life. If music is your life, then the gear that you have is the the lifeline of your music life. I don't know, something like that. Let's see. What do we have here? Billy Blaze says, I've been using Easy Mix too. Love it, love it. Yep. I never actually tried Easy Mix from Tune, what was it? Tune Track. And Easy Drummer 2. Yeah, I don't have Easy Drummer 2 as well. Yeah. I don't spend much money on VST plugins and instruments unless I really need them. If you look into my list of my Studio One plugins, you can scroll within a couple scrolls or everything that I have. And half of it is, the standard plugin in Studio One. Because there's, unless I need some coloration, I might get, I have few Waves plugin, I have a few Melda Productions plugin, and few others without mentioning. But, I don't have that many, because the more you have, the more confusing it becomes about what you have, which one to use. But I guess at one stage, I will need an Easy Drummer too, for drum tracks. But at the moment, I haven't had any recording sessions or any need for any drum machine. Al Pearson says, that is great analysis of mixing and mastering. Thank you, Al. Let me just have a quick sip. If you need to make massive changes in the mastering stage, then you have done something wrong. Mastering should be a touch of the final mix. That's right. That's exactly what I mentioned. And also, if you are using Studio One Pro, it does have a project mastering section as well. So you can load all your projects into all your songs into the project and do a mastering there. Makes it really easy. So if you need to tweak something in the mix, you can just go back to that mix and tweak it. Makes it really easy. But even without that, export the WAV file, import it into your new session, and then do the final tweaks there. And lastly, before we finish off for today, live stream, Billy Blaze says, Vache, how do you deal with ear fatigue? I can only do about 4 hours and my ears are shot for a while. Wow, 4 hours? No. The longest I go is about 2 hours. I usually tend to put a timer as well. If I'm doing mixing, I have my phone, put a timer on, and when it dings, I stop. No matter what, I stop and then go out, check out my kids, check out my wife to see what they're doing, and then just come back, 15, 20 minutes later and continue for another maybe an hour or two. I don't go any longer than 2 hours. It especially during mixing, it's really can be fatigue, of course. But during recording sessions, again, pretty much the same thing. We might spend about an hour recording an instrument or two. Then we do have a break. We'll have a break. We have a coffee or a drink or freshen up, go outside, check out the weather. And if it's nighttime, just check out the stars. Sit down on the lounge and talk about ideas and get to know the musicians or the artists here. So we definitely have a break. I definitely have to have a break. Otherwise, because once you lose these ears, then they're irreplaceable. You can't lose them. I mean, I do have some ear problem already, but that's because of many years of live music, been playing live or doing live mixing work, but I do monitor. I make sure that I don't listen for too long. 4 hours for me is far too long, Billy. You need to. I know sometimes you can be in the mood and you don't want to stop, but trust me, put the alarm on and make sure that you stop when the alarm comes on. Otherwise, you're going to hurt yourself. Okay, that is about it for this live show. I hope I explained and gave you a lot of tips, and I answered a few questions there as well. If you have any further questions, I will be doing Q&A sessions as well. So leave your questions below. I will be looking at those comments, reading those comments, any question, whatever audio related, and I will answer them in my next video of Q&A session videos that most likely will start doing them on a weekly or bi-weekly, depending on how many questions I get. So comment below any questions you might have. This could be the starter of that video. Yeah, and then I will answer them in the next one. And again, thanks for everybody who was here. I had, about 11, 12 concurrent viewers, which is really, really great. At this time of the day, I understand it's very hard for people like Billy up at 4:35 a.m. in the morning. Thank you so much for being here. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great time making music. And cheerio, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.